So I've had a lot of people ask me if I would talk about the recent attacks that have happened on PlayStation Network and Xbox Live over the last few weeks by a group calling themselves the Lizard Squad. So this group, before we get into them and what they're actually planning, like for instance on Christmas Day and how they're a bunch of douchebags, let me first explain what they and groups like them are actually doing and how it works, because I think that'll give you a better understanding of how everything is actually going down. So first off, I know a lot of people are focusing on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. There's people out there, I blame Sony and Microsoft, even though they conveniently leave out the fact that Steam was also put down the other day by these attacks. They also forget about Blizzard and Destiny servers being hit and taken down. So first off, let's not pretend that it's only Xbox Live and PlayStation Network that are attacked. These attacks happen every single second of every single day on businesses, banks, government websites, you name it, it's happening. And so this is a pretty big problem, but there's a whole, tech industry devoted to this sort of issue. So a lot of people have said that PlayStation Network and Xbox Live is being hacked. And first off, it has not been hacked. A hack is whenever something is actually infiltrated, when somebody actually infiltrates the system. In 2011, PlayStation Network was hacked. Over 77 million accounts were stolen, and users couldn't play on the PlayStation Network for over 23 days. Someone actually infiltrated that system. Now, what's happening recently with Xbox Live and PlayStation Network is a DDos attack, or a denial of service attack. So here's how it works. Imagine you live in a town that has one phone line for 911 calls. And imagine that you had like 5 pranksters who were constantly calling in to that 911 line. That would mean that that line is busy, and therefore legitimate people trying to call in to reach 911 couldn't do that because the pranksters had flooded the lines. The same sort of thing works during a DDoS attack. So whenever you're on the internet and you're talking back and forth to a website, you're sending packets back and forth to that website. And so that server on the other end has to open the packet to see what type of request you've made. And in DDoS attacks, they make junk requests. They don't send any real legitimate requests. Like if you're sending a legitimate request, you're wanting to get onto the network, you're wanting to play a game or send a message or do something. Whereas a DDoS attack just floods the servers with all kinds of traffic. But the servers still have to figure out if it's a legitimate packet or not a legitimate packet. So the way that it happens is you have a person who controls this attack, right? And it's not like one person is launching the attack and using their one computer in order to take down PlayStation Network or Xbox Live or whatever else. They usually have armies of computers, or tons of zombie computers is what they're known as. And your computer could actually be a zombie, and you may not even know about it. You, in fact, could be part of the problem taking down some of these sites. It's hard to know. But what happens is these attackers will send out malware onto different people's computers. And most people have no idea that their computer is infected. And with malware, I mean, that encompasses a lot of different things. It could be a virus, it could be Trojans, spyware, whatever. Some malware looks at every keystroke that you make and tries to get your passwords. But some malware, such as the ones used in these types of attacks, they kind of stay hidden for the most part and only really activate when the controller decides to launch an attack. So what happens is whenever the controller decides to launch an attack, they may have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of computers that have this malware on it, and then they can send out a message telling these computers, hey, start sending messages to this server. So Microsoft, Sony, whoever's being attacked is being flooded by what looks like legitimate requests from tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of different computers. Now, the way your computer gets infected is through a number of different ways. You know, somebody could send you a link that you click on, which, by the way, is why I never, ever, ever click on any link, especially from like one of these groups. If you follow them on Twitter, don't click on anything that they link. I saw a group the other day, I saw a bunch of my friends actually retweeting like fake Xbox support Twitter accounts the other day, where these Twitter accounts were promising free stuff for Xbox Live issues, and they had some link that you clicked on. I mean, who knows what the hell that link was actually doing? It may actually take you to a website, but what else is it doing while it's taking you there, you know? Something else could be downloaded onto your background, so you got to be really careful about stuff like that. So even like I follow Anonymous on Twitter. I followed them for a long time. I follow a lot of different people from all different walks of life. And sometimes they actually post really good stories. But if they post something that I think sounds interesting, I'll actually go Google it and find the actual source before I click on it, because I don't trust anything from them either. So of course, a lot of people say, look, why can't we just track these people down? Why can't you just track down Lizard Squad and go arrest them and throw them in jail? Which, trust me, I believe everybody would be really happy if that happened. But as you can see, if you've got tens of thousands of computers that are sending all these requests, it's a little difficult to know exactly where the actual source took place at, because I'm sure these people are also using proxies and trying to hide themselves from the attack. So it's not like it's so easy just to figure out what's happening. And it's not like you have to be really smart in order to launch these attacks. I mean, you could develop malware that gets spread onto other computers if you want to, or they actually have different groups that you can pay to use their servers, that you can pay to use their bots in order to launch attacks. So, I mean, it really takes a retard in order to launch a DDoS attack these days. So, Sony and Microsoft can't stop this from happening. They can't stop thousands of computers from flooding their servers with traffic. But there are different things that can happen that they can try to lower the impact of this. And so they do have to try to figure out legitimate requests for the customers who are paying for their service and who are trying to use it. Now, if they do find a request that isn't legitimate, if they do see that a request is junk, then they do have to be sure that it is a junk request and that this is a bad address that's sending this. And then they can blacklist it. And that means that traffic from that source won't affect it anymore. So that's why these attacks don't last for very long, because eventually they do get blacklisted. But when you're talking about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of computers, it is going to take a while before they're all blacklisted, because it's not like that they have to launch all of these at one time in order to take down a service. You can launch just with a few thousand and have an impact. So eventually, I think the system or this problem will get a little bit better over time as more and more addresses get blacklisted. But it is going to take some time for that. They also have mitigation services, and I know that Sony and Microsoft used to in the past, they used to hire businesses who professionalize in this. They are built to handle big loads, and they can go through and scrub a lot of traffic at one time in order to find out which ones are legitimate and which ones aren't. Now, Microsoft, they may be doing their own type of scrubbing right now with Azure. I'm not really sure. Same with Sony. I'm not really sure. I'm not up to date on that. But there are businesses who specialize in this, and they can analyze traffic and determine pretty quickly which ones are bots and which ones aren't, and they're able to put a stop to that pretty quickly. But let me make one other point. Some people have said there's no use in this, you know, these systems should be up 100% of the time. Look, if you go build your website, I don't care how many millions or billions of dollars you have or invest, there is not a company out there who can promise you 100% uptime all of the time if you actually read the fine print. Most of them will offer you 99% uptime because nobody can account for that 1% where the systems go down. I mean, that's just the way the internet works. If you're online, nothing is guaranteed. I don't care if you're the FBI or whatever. All of these sites go down at one point at some time or another. Now, that's the kind of beginner's guide to DDoS attacks, all right? So let's move on to Lizard Squad. So Lizard Squad is claiming that they are taking down Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, right? And a few other sites. First, it's hard to know with 100% certainty that they're actually doing anything. You know, could they have been doing it some of the time and not all of the time? Sure. Could they be doing it 100% of the time? It's possible. But is it also possible that they're just signed up to get alerts anytime something happens with Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, and then they just simply tweet after the fact that one of these systems is having issues? That's also a possibility. So let me just put that out there. Second, speaking for me just personally, I have not seen Xbox Live go down one time. Every time that I've seen Lizard Squad say that Xbox Live is offline, or if I've got people sending me messages saying that the system's offline or whatever, I've been online playing. Or else I've walked into the living room, turned on the Xbox, and been able to get online. Now, that is not to say that other people weren't able to get online. That's not to say other people aren't having issues, and it doesn't take anything away from those people who were having issues, because that sucks regardless. But I can tell you that the last 2 times that Xbox Live has supposedly been offline, I was online and I checked my friends list, and I had over 75 friends on one time, and I had over 110 on the second time. So for me personally, I haven't seen it going down once. My assumption is that because Xbox Live is on Azure, and because Azure is a group of servers around the globe, and there's a lot of them, there's a lot of different farms, my guess is that my farm hasn't been hit as much as others. That's not to say, again, that there aren't other people in different parts of the globe who were down and couldn't get online. But to say the whole system went down, I really can't confirm that, because every time I've been online. Now, I have had issues where my friends list was screwing up and I couldn't see everybody on my friends list for a few minutes. It would come and go ever so often. But even at that point, it didn't keep me from playing online. And it may be the same with the PlayStation Network. I can't speak for that because I don't know how theirs is set up. And maybe somebody can tell me, you know, whenever they claim PlayStation Network is down, are there some people who are actually still online? I don't know that. Now, Lizard Squad is claiming that they're going to take down Xbox Live for forever come Christmas. That's their latest threat. Let me say this. They are completely full of shit. So at this point, it's hard for me to believe anything they say because they're lying. And if you want to bookmark this video and come back a year from today, please go right ahead. Feel free to come back next December or whenever you watch this video and tell me that Xbox Live has been down ever since Christmas 2014. Feel free to call me a dumbass all you want. But I'll go on the record right now and say it's never going to happen. Could they launch a massive attack on Xbox Live on Christmas? Yeah, sure. But they aren't going to take it down for forever. So they're already known liars from that statement, so it's hard for me to believe anything else they say. And if they are going to actually take it down, then like I said, they're going to have to try a little bit harder than what they've been doing because it still hasn't been completely taken offline as far as I'm concerned. You know, these are just a bunch of losers who get a kick out of feeling like they've got some power because they can break something temporarily. They weren't gifted with any talents or skills to create anything in life or to give back to society, so they get off on trying to break things that other people have created. And that's what you call a sad individual. And I mean, these really are the basement-dwelling virgins you've always heard about. It does suck for anybody who's affected by it. Now, I wish I could tell you that it's never going to happen again, but as I mentioned before, these attacks aren't complicated. They don't take a rocket scientist to carry out, but they are difficult to prevent. But with each one, you notice that it's usually pretty limited. You know, it usually doesn't last more than an hour or so before the platform comes back online, and that tells you right there, their power is pretty limited as far as to what they can do. And that's why I don't go run and post up a video or post on Twitter or post on VGN every single time PlayStation Network is down or every time Xbox Live is down. I don't always post it on VGN unless it's a long substantiated attack. Because really, I hate to give these fuckers any more attention than what they already get. In the end, I do cross my fingers and hope that the FBI is tracking down these fools, and I know that they've got a lot of data to go through, a few proxies to pass, but hopefully somebody will catch them and eventually put them in their place, and I hope that whenever they do, I hope they burn. That does it for me, the Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.